Hi there, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you all here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this channel. So, we are back at that mini series we've been running every week on Thursday afternoon, which is called They Got It Started. This is featuring all these artists. So, I'm just going to sit up a little bit more here from back in the 1950s, where they kind of pioneered what we call rock and roll. And the artist I've chosen to talk about today is none other than Chuck Berry. I like Chuck Berry's. I like the songs by Chuck Berry a lot. Some of his antics I haven't liked as much, but that doesn't matter. I'm not here to talk about his antics or his life or much of that. A little bit about him, of course, but about a lot about his music. So, to me, when I think of Chuck Berry, obviously it's got that 50s rock and roll sound. He's a little heavier than most rock and roll artists of that time period, relying a lot on guitar sound, you know, and those up-tempo, heavy beat songs that he was doing with a little bit of that rhythm and blues in it, but primarily a rock and roll and rhythm and blues guy. So Chuck Berry, vocalist and guitar player here, as you see him, wasn't really particularly good at tuning his guitar, which irritated a lot of the people who played with him. But other than that, he came up with some really catchy songs. So he was born October the 18th, 1926 in St. Louis, and he died March the 18th, 2017 at the age of 90 in St. Charles County in Missouri. So he lived a fairly long life. 90 years is not bad, right? Of course, in the rock and roll and rock rhythm and blues genres, that's what he's known for. He basically had four number ones, but I'm going to qualify this. So three of those number ones were number ones in some different locations. They weren't all in the same locations. He had one number one that was both number one in the US and in Great Britain. So that's the big one for him. He had over 30 charting singles, meaning that these songs were on the charts, some of them fairly high up too. So he had quite a few songs that were pretty well known. Sold over 40,000 albums, 40 million albums. I wrote 1,000, but I know it's 40 million. Started his career back in 1955 and stayed with it right up till he died in 2017 at the age of, he's at the age of 90, but so that's 62 years performing. That's pretty incredible. I think there's still some musicians that are up there with him, but he's definitely one of those guys, been around a long time. His first single was Maybelline. That was released back in, I believe it was in 56, was fifth on the U.S. charts, first in the U.S. blues charts. So it was a pretty significant hit for him right out of the gate. Just really good. He had a lot of other songs that are quite well known. Most of them are on this greatest hits here: Rock and Roll Over Beethoven, Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, which was one he covered, of course, Rock and Roll Music, Sweet Little 16, Johnny B. Good, of course, You Never Can Tell, and of course My Ding-a-Ling, which is the big one for him. Ironically, came out in the 70s, so he had some fairly big hits in the 50s through the 60s, but that was his biggest hit. Probably his last hit, really, or his last big hit, anyways. He did tour with Buddy Holly and the Everlys at different times. He considered the father of rock. I guess that's the title they gave him. I've actually never heard that title referred to him, so it's kind of new to me. So maybe it's real, maybe it isn't. He's been honored at the Kennedy Center back in 2000. So would that be Clinton? It's either Clinton or Bush, one of the two, that presented that award to him. Won a Grammy for Lifetime Achievement. Also, of course, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as you might expect, a rock artist. Anyways, I like his music, that style that he developed. To me, he wasn't so much a musician as he was a performer. And for those of you who don't know what the difference is, some bands like Kiss is a performative band, but maybe not. They are musicians, but performance is the main thing. And Chuck Berry was one of those guys, often doing that funny leg move across the stage with his guitar. He's known well for that. The other thing he was known quite well for is that he would go to town on a tour and he would just hire musicians that were in the town already. He didn't bring his own band with him. He would get those musicians, and just assuming that everybody would know his stuff, right? Sometimes that worked and sometimes that didn't work, and often it didn't work, and it was a bit of a mumble jumbo up and chaos up on stage. Also, the other thing, he wasn't great at tuning his guitar, apparently, and would be out of tune quite a bit while he was playing, so that was a bit of an annoyance too. But overall, I like him because most of the songs that he made big, I like a lot. They are catchy. They're of the time period, of course. They got that rock and roll flavor to them. The lyrics are usually telling some little bit of a story, which is interesting. And he could sing. He was a pretty damn good singer, I think. Easily understandable. And, of course, he wrote some good stuff. And he was, like I said, a performer. And for me, Chuck Berry came into existence when I was a kid back in 1972. My parents would play that My Ding-a-ling on the radio, and then they got me to sing it one time, and I actually have a cassette of me singing that song when I was 8. So, yeah, people thought it was kind of funny and enjoyed it, and so did I. So Chuck Berry, that was the guy I chose for tonight to talk about. Like his music, like his kind of heaviness to that time period. And I think he had a large impact on a lot of people going forward. You could cite the Beatles, you could cite Paul McCartney, you could cite a lot of bands in the early 60s where Rolling Stones was another band. Those two bands for sure, the Beatles and the Stones, often credited him with a lot of interesting stuff and stuff that they would use on their own albums. So yeah, very well known, very well followed by a lot of bands and citing, and people were influenced by him. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you want to add anything about Chuck Berry, you can do that in the comment section below, or you can talk about his music, or if you want, you could just pick another guy that you might like, who you think might have been influential, and put him in the comment section too. Everything's a game. And we will see you all next Thursday afternoon for another episode of They Got It Started. These are all going to be in this series, all artists from the 1950s. So take care, have yourself a good evening, and goodbye.